I know what you're thinking. Why is this medical student sinking down to this level? Why is he talking about the most controversial man on the planet right now? Someone who says such outrageous stuff, aggravating so many people. Someone who's been arrested. Well, do I agree with the things he says? Or am I here to tell you a story about myself and what I've had to go through my entire life and at medical school? So if you do truly think that I agree with this guy's ideologies, then click off the video. But if you're here for some motivation, some inspiration, and some entertainment, then keep watching. So what is it that I have to deal with? And how does a guy like Tate even help me? Because the clips of this guy that surfaced on my feed when I was down and out scrolling through for some hope, way before I even knew who he was, generally did have some effect. So, a little bit about me. My hands sweat a lot, like all the time. They are literally sweating right now as I'm making this video. Not because I'm nervous, they just do.
Why are your hands always sweaty?
I don't know. Let's just forget about medical school for a second. There are basic life situations that I just cannot handle. Like when someone asks me to open a crisp packet for them or do anything practical, I just cannot do it. My hands slip all the time and they just look at me as if I'm an idiot. And anything practical, I just can never do. I always mess it up and they always look at me and they always say the classic phrase, "Oh, at your big age." But it's just because my hands are just so slippery all the time. Honestly, the anxiety that I go through when someone asks me to do a favor for them, it's just insane. Even as a kid, when you go to other people's houses and you play video games, I stopped doing that because I knew my hands make the controller so wet. I literally just stopped going to my friends' houses. Even basic things like shaking someone's hand. Like when I see people coming my way and I know that I'm gonna have to shake their hand, I have to plan in advance how much time I have to dry my hands, how dry I can get them before I shake their hand. And then I tap on my arm to see if it's worthy of shaking their hand or do I have to do a fist bump. There is so much stress just on a daily basis that I just have to go through. And it's just constantly on my mind. Even when people just hand me like a book or a device where you can see the sweat marks, I just get so anxious when I have to return the book back to them and they just see a bunch of sweat marks all over and they immediately start thinking like, am I some diseased person? It's just horrible. And you know that Mac thing where you swipe, like even just using a laptop, man, like it ruins everything. I can never do anything. The keyboard gets sweaty. It's just so jarring for me. Then of course there's medical school, and this is where things really started to mess up because there was so much stuff that I just could not do. Because as a doctor, you actually have to touch the patient, examine them, use equipment. I cannot do any of this, and it would cause me so much anxiety because the people around me didn't know. They just saw an idiot fumbling around and I didn't know what to say. I can't even put on gloves properly. It takes me like 2 minutes. I'm literally just faffing about trying to put on these gloves in front of everyone while everyone just stares at me. There's literally a station in my third year of medical school this year where you have to put on sterile gloves. Like screw sterile gloves. I can't even put on normal gloves. I'm definitely gonna fail that station, like I know for a fact. There are literally times on placement where the patient just says no. Your hands are too cold, they're too sweaty, and I don't know what to do. I honestly have no idea what to do. Because obviously I got through the first year of medical school, the preclinical years, because all you had to do was sit down, memorize a bunch of stuff, and do a multiple choice exam at the end of the year. Sure, my hand would slip off the mouse, but I still passed the exam. But that's actually so annoying because you start picturing yourself as a doctor. That's right. But then you realize you can't even actually do the job at hand. I ended up failing my mock practical exams in second year. This was obviously just so disheartening. Like, I've already done a degree to get into medical school, and then it literally just comes down to my condition that I've had my entire life, that says you cannot be a doctor. That's literally how I felt. Like, it was so out of my control, and I literally just felt hopeless, defeated, and I was like, I'm definitely gonna have to drop out. I'm gonna have to find a career that doesn't involve using your hands. And this is where Tate comes in. So you could probably tell at this point, after failing my exams, I was defeated. I was so sad. So obviously I was looking for motivation at this point. And you see this guy, he shows up on my feed and he starts talking about resilience and adversity. And obviously it's going to resonate with me at this point in time. One of the things he says is take responsibility of your life. He tells you to get a pen and paper and write down all the things that you're grateful for and everything bad that is happening in your life. And I generally did that, and it really did put things into perspective. I was like, this is my story, this is my life, I'm gonna own it, and I'm gonna get through it. And if I can get through it, it'll be one hell of a YouTube video. Another thing that I remember him saying, the things that have made the best version of you are usually the worst things that happen to you. And that's low-key true, because I did have to go out of my way to practice harder for my practical exams, and it got to a point where I actually did become good at them, because I had to find techniques and actually beat other people that don't have a condition. So maybe there is hope. Maybe I could actually be an amazing doctor with amazing practical skills. There's also stuff that he talks about in a very cocky way, you know, with a lot of bravado. And if you just take that all the way, he talks about embracing and overcoming personal demons and problems is essential for growth. And stuff like it's impossible to become anything without any adversity, and how trauma is essential. And I'm not saying that this was traumatizing. I know that there's people out there suffering with a lot worse and facing real trauma, but for me at the time it was really difficult and it was a major barrier. And I'm not saying Tate was the only thing that got me through it, but I do give credit where credit is due. And there was a time in my life where the advice that I was receiving from a guy like Andrew Tate did actually help me. So I'm currently in my third year of medical school, and if you want to see more of my journey and actually see if I make it through, then subscribe and stay along for the ride.